the first 3 years of my life, I got the pleasure, and sincerely, listeners, this was a pleasure. I lived in that space, that beautiful space between here, the physical planet, and that space in which we came from, which is out there.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome, everybody. I'm so grateful that you're here for another Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. We have an amazing guest here today. Yes, we're going to unpack those chakras for sure. You know, they get kind of congested sometimes. But we're going to break down like what's going on. What is this chakra stuff all about? And, we're going to be talking to someone who's been doing healing since 3 years old. All right. So, you might want to take some notes. You might want to really listen. She's got an incredible journey to share with you along the way and a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and definitely also how it connects with your entire being, your body, and everything. The chakras, there's so many ways that you may not realize how things are connected. And I feel like we're going to get that information in part today from you, Mary. So, Dr. Mary Sanders, so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. The honor sincerely is all mine. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Likewise. Okay, so let's learn more about her. With a wealth of experience as a self-employed medical intuitive and chiropractor, Dr. Mary is deeply committed to guiding individuals on their journey of personal transformation. She focuses on helping people cultivate thriving health, happiness, and purpose through the powerful tools of energy medicine, spiritual embodiment, and meditation. Dr. Mary hosts the internationally acclaimed podcast Energy Medicine, which discusses everything related to aligning the mind, body, and spirit. Dr. Mary earned her doctorate in chiropractic from Logan College of Chiropractic in St. Louis, Missouri. She completed her certificate in positive psychology, super powerful stuff, from the Wholebeing Institute in Lennox, Massachusetts, and studied under Dr. Tal Ben Shahar. In addition, she completed her master's in intuition medicine from the Academy of Intuition Medicine in Sausalito, California, and studied under Dr. Now this one I don't know, Francesca McCartney. Usually I ask if I don't know how to pronounce one. I think I nailed it though. So glad again you're here, Dr. Mary. So you started from a long time ago. So how did you know you were a healer? Tell us about that.
Oh, well, first and foremost, Daniel, as I'm listening to that introduction, I'm thinking to myself, hey, who is that person he's talking about? And then I think to myself, Daniel, wow, she's pretty old. But thank you. No, sincerely, it is my honor to be here. And listeners, I feel you. And today we're going to be talking about ways how we can heighten your awareness, your intuition about your own energy centers so that you might be able to align with your authentic self and to follow the tools and the techniques that Daniel refers to in bringing in that six-figure income and serving your clients' highest needs. So, listen, we're going to have a great conversation. Daniel, you asked me a question, and even when I say this out loud, like, how did I know that I was destined to have my hands on people? And quite honestly, I want to address something from the very beginning. I don't really consider myself a healer.
Okay,
I
good.
believe that the healing happens from within. The people, the spirits, the beautiful spirits that reside within our human home are responsible for their own individual healing. My job, as I see it, I'm just a facilitator. I hold an entrainment, a frequency, and that's my job. And then I sit back and I sense and say the information that I receive that is led by your spirit. So your question was, wow, how did you know, Mary, that you wanted to do this? And
Mhm.
quite honestly, I knew at the young age of 3 that I was destined to have my hands on bodies. Okay. Now, 3 sounds like an exceptionally young age. So let me give a little bit of background information so that you can better understand. And Daniel, I was born hearing impaired. So my hearing capacity is 50% what a normal person can hear. The unfortunate or fortunate caveat is that it went undiagnosed until I was 3. So for the first 3 years of my life, I got the pleasure, and sincerely, listeners, this was a pleasure. I lived in that space, that beautiful space between here, the physical planet, and that space in which we came from, which is out there. And so I knew that I was receiving, and this is again, just based on pure survival techniques, that I knew intuitively that my sisters and my mother and my father and my childhood friends were communicating with me, but I couldn't necessarily, through my hearing, hear the message that they were communicating. So I started to feel and to sense and to know the communication that was happening. Now, at the age of 3, did I understand that? No. I was just trying to physically make it here on this physical planet. And so then quickly after 3, then they did realize that I was hearing impaired. And then I received my first hearing aid. I think I was in first grade. So what are you? Are you 6 in first grade? So it was at that age that I started to realize that, I was like, I remember putting the hearing aid in for the first time, and I was like, what is it that I'm hearing? And my mother looked at me, she said, those are birds. Those are birds singing outside in the trees. And so that was like all foreign information. So all of a sudden I was receiving additional information. But I was a young person who, and this is kind of a funny story. I'll share it with you. I was raised in a Catholic environment, and I have distinctive memories going to this church. On Saturday night, we would go to Saturday night 5 o'clock mass, and I didn't know that the guy up front was sharing a message. The guy in the long robe, he just stood up there, so I couldn't hear him. So what I would do to entertain myself, I knew I was supposed to be quiet. Like I wasn't supposed to make any noises. So what I did for fun is that I would stand between my parents. I would hold my mom's hand in my right hand, and I would hold my dad's hand in my left hand. And what I would do, Daniel, is I would imagine that I was zapping my mother's energy, running it through my own, and then zapping my dad. Then I would take my dad's energy, run it through my body, zap my mom. So I don't know about you, but that was my playground. I played with energy, and I sensed and I felt my way through the world. I remember always wanting to massage my family, like to touch them, whether it was massage their back or massage their feet or their hands. That's just what I did as a small person. So
Mhm.
that's how I knew.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, for me, I don't ever remember thinking on doing anything to facilitate directly a healing for somebody or something. I know, like throughout my life, I'll feel someone in my heart. I'll feel the energy. I'll drop into that space. Even as a kid, I know I was doing that unconsciously, right? So I think a lot of us do that. But for me, it was more, I always talk about the story about working with the traffic lights, like I'm going to throw it the green light so that it'll turn to green or whatever, like the traffic. And then it wouldn't really work usually ever, but I was practicing, it's what I think was cool about it. And I I already had the knowing at some level that you can do it, like there's something you can do. You can play with this energy, right? So with nobody ever telling me, I just, just an instinct I had. So I thought that was pretty cool. But and just people telling me, um, I was intuitive as I got older and older, like just, oh wow, how do you know that? Like things like that's a long story, but But what's cool with what you said is that, um, yeah, I've heard from many, many people that do quote unquote healing. I'll put it that way for the moment. And they will say, I'm not a healer. There is no such thing as a healer. And I think it's fine if people, I just think like it's fine either way, to be honest. So because I think, I understand the wisdom of it. I guess sometimes people could think, well, I need, the power comes from them. They're the healer. Uh, but, it's you're serving as a healing conduit. So just like when people say, I don't like the word sales, or I don't like this word, or whatever, I'm just like, honestly, mostly I'm like, come on, guys, let's get past it. But I hear where you're coming from on it anyway. So I just think some people do better to realize. For me, not for you. You don't need to know you're a healer or whatever. But there's people like they're not claiming their gifts, and some of them do better to hear just, "Hey, you're a healer. You're meant to do healing." They're like, Uh, but yeah, ultimately, all healing for 100% is obviously within the individual. Jesus didn't say, "I'm the healer." He says you're healed by your faith or whatever, like all those kind of things, right? And so totally, but there's a facilitation of healing that definitely happens. And you got started working and playing around with it ever since 3, really. And you mentioned was 6 years old with your parents and stuff. And what I think is cool is most people that say they started young, their parents were like a lineage of healers for last, six lineages or whatever. You're just naturally just gravitated towards it, huh?
Well, I can honestly say, and this was an agreement that I made with my spirit contractually at a young age. I was not, I didn't choose the family that had the history of these alternative belief systems. I chose the family that, the power was within God and that we were separate and that we didn't have those gifts innately. So
Mm.
I chose and contractually agreed to desensitize myself. So, as a person in elementary school, middle school, and high school, I would receive spontaneous information, and I can share a story. I was in high school. I must have been a sophomore, and it was during summertime. And I came upon. We had a neighborhood pool, and there were some boys that I went to high school with who were working on the landscaping on the outside of the pool, and I came into the pool and I must have been on my bike. And I saw an ambulance pull up, and one of my classmates, my high school classmates, was being led onto the ambulance, and he was a healthy guy. And so I was like, I wonder what's going on. And so I left the scene. I didn't want to be impeding upon anything. And I rode my bike home. I walked into the kitchen and I said, "Hey, mom, I just saw Tom get onto an ambulance, and he busted a lung. He busted a lung." And that's why he was on the ambulance. And my mother turned to me and she said, "There's no way you know this information." And I said, "But yeah, but that's what happened. That's why he's going to the hospital. His one of his lungs doesn't work." And so I learned later that he had a collapsed lung due to some of the fertilizers that he was laying down. He had an adverse reaction to. So
Mhm.
it was information that I received spontaneously that my family was not necessarily comfortable with. It wasn't until I got into chiropractic school that I was surrounded by like minded people that I allowed all of my intuition to come back online.
Mhm.
So it took that kind of a transition to get there.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can relate. I mean, I don't, we're all different, but like, I can relate at least to what you're saying. So I think that's what happens. Some people see all kinds of things when they're young. They're seeing angels and beings and stuff, and then like nobody else is seeing it, is what I'm finding out, though. And then they shut it all down, and then they have to try to. And it's like I'm trying to bring it back now, right? It's like you mentioned. So it's interesting because probably because you're like, so was it because you're guided to, be hands-on? Do you believe that you got guided to chiropractic? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I do believe, again, I shared that I intuitively knew at the age of 3 that I had to have my hands on patients, or hands on people. So I
Mm,
kept that knowledge and that awareness when I was
mm,
academically going through my high school years. And I went and I studied in health occupations and found myself working in the physical therapy department.
mm,
And so I learned some valuable information when I was working as a physical therapy aide. Number one, I didn't want to be in a sick environment, such as a hospital. I wanted to be in an environment in which I was surrounded by healthy people. That's the first thing I learned. And then the second thing that I began to question is the authority of what happened, the bureaucracy within a hospital environment where physical therapy could have been dominated by women within the industry, but when it came to the chair position, it always was provided to the men in the department. And so consequently, I knew that I wanted a level playing field. And so I gravitated away from physical therapy, and then that's what guided me into after my undergraduate degrees in chemistry and zoology to enroll in chiropractic school.
mhm. So, yeah, I mean, thinking about your background, which I want to come back to again, is um, so people didn't really know you had a hearing problem at first, right? Because I'm thinking about like, who is Mary? How did she get to be the way she is in this lifetime? There's all the past life stuff that, of course, too. But how did Mary get it? So, but they didn't even realize you had a hearing problem until for a while. You said, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
that's
correct.
interesting. That's very interesting. And then I feel like, what people say is what? When other senses are not as heightened, other senses get stronger, right? And so do you believe even though, you may not have a ton of memories from that time, at that age, but do you believe like that potentially really was part of what heightened your sensitivity to energy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful question, Daniel. I believe that all of us, everyone that's listening to this podcast, you all have the ability to access that wisdom, that
Mhm.
information that lies outside of the traditional five senses. It's
Mm,
available to all of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And as children, I wish that we cultivated an environment for kids to explore that more, because I think that we would be able to allow the space for other people to show up authentically within their essence, utilizing the gifts that they were born with or that they brought this lifetime forward. So I kind of wish that, more kids were held in that space. But for
Mm,
me specifically, I definitely had developed more psychometry, which is essentially feeling within my hands,
mhm,
energies from other objects or people or places I can perceive through my hands. The
mhm,
other thing that happened at a very young age is that I developed my clairsentience. And that comes from the second chakra. And essentially, that is your ability to pick up information from other people, places, and things and feel it within your body. So, an example of clairsentience is when you walk into a party and you can immediately like feel the vibe of the room, you're picking up those energies. Or if you're the kind of person that goes and has lunch with a friend and you sit knee to knee with them, and the friend starts processing strong emotions, and then you leave that luncheon and you feel those strong emotions within your physical body, even though they are not yours. So those are descriptions of clairsentience. And I was raised in an environment who my father was a beautiful provider, but he was an alcoholic. And
mm,
so emotionally, he was not very regulated. So I couldn't necessarily hear my father come home in the evening through the the side door through the kitchen. But what I could do was to feel the changes within my mother's energetic disposition and my two older sisters' energies. And so I started to, because I wanted everybody to be, a cohesive family with no problems, I started to carry other people's energies as my own. And
Mm.
so that did not serve anybody else. Just for all the listeners out there, I'm telling you, you're robbing other people of their own emotional journeys, and it depletes your own life force energy when you do that. So, but that was a gift. An extrasensory perception above and beyond the traditional five senses. And
Mm.
so today, if somebody were to say, "Hey, Mary, would you take 100% hearing at this capacity at this time in your life?" I'm 55, and I would have to say, "No, I would not." I would find that that noise would be too much of a distraction and
Mm.
would not allow me the perception on the subtle energetic levels. So I believe everybody has access to this information. I really sincerely do. And when I went to the Academy of Intuition Medicine, she granted me the space, she granted me the opportunity to really dive into maximizing intuition. And, again, we're talking about, I think there's over like 20 different intuitive elements that you can pull into your awareness. And we all have that capacity, whether or not we just take the opportunity to learn or to reinforce or to bring out from within.
Mhm. Oh, that's fascinating. So, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that would do anything but enhance your connection. And yet, yeah, that's what I tell everybody is that pretty much everybody's got these strong intuitive psychic abilities within themselves. Now, some may have a problem accessing it for various reasons. That's always possible, but usually with some encouragement and just some training, that's what I do. I train people on how to do it. So people can do it right away. I would say you'll be doing it, within the first day of the training, you'll be doing it. You could honestly, I could show people can do it within probably 10 minutes even, right? Like, if I really wanted to show off, like, show what's possible. But, even in my training, for first day, people are like, well, they're not full believers totally, but they're like, oh yeah, I can't. It's getting hard to deny with doing these practice rounds that I can't, that I don't have anything going on, right? It gets harder and harder to deny it anymore. So it's interesting. Now, seeing as you've done it for a long time, and I also am clairsentient, as far as that's my strongest, probably my strongest. I mean, I get a lot of images too, but I always use that as my first one. And I do. I mean, it's been something where what shut down for me in part is responding to the world because of that gift. Like, I'm just like, because and you don't even know what's happening when you're younger. Like, you don't know its energy is what's going on. You're just like, oh, like you're just overwhelmed. It's just like I'm getting bombarded with energy, and so I don't know how to respond. Then people say you're shy. Well,
Mm.
yeah, you would be shy too if you're feeling what I'm feeling. Like, maybe, I don't know, but that's how I kind of see it in part for me anyway, my experience of it. So, but yeah, so I just started sorting it through. I just naturally on my own, I guess. I didn't have training on it really. As I really, started just seeing I have this gift, I started cultivating it. Then I was able to start doing all this stuff with reading the chakras with the technique I was given to use and train people on that. And then, so you teach about, obviously we're going to talk about the chakras. Like you said, something fascinating. It's like, I'm always learning something new all the time. I had ever really thought about, well, which chakra is clairsentient? I never, make total sense what you said, but I wouldn't have thought to think about that even, to be honest. So, so you said that's second chakra, right? So
Yes.
so I'm like, let's talk chakras. So what are some of the, maybe we could talk about some of the basics first. Probably everybody knows about the chakras that's listening, but what are some of the basic myths you see a lot about when people think about chakras and what they are and what goes on in them? Are there any myths that you've noticed that people have around the chakras?
Yeah, the first one that I'll address is that everybody thinks that the chakras are going to come up in the color scheme of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and all the way on up. And I'm here to tell you that they're not that pure. Very few times when you think about the iontophoresis that happens, the spin and the frequency of each of the energy centers, and how that gets expressed and emanated via light, very rarely is it a pure light. It's very rarely a pure light. And so know that within each and every single energy center, all light exists, all colors exist. And it depends on the spin, it depends on the frequency and the integrity and the health of those energy centers as to what color gets emanated.
Mhm. That's very interesting. So, because one of the things I always laugh about this, but literally I do chakra training. Like that's the focus of how people do their energy scans is by going through the chakras. It's a big centerpiece of it. I literally teach nothing about spinning chakras. I teach nothing around colors. I teach only for them to see what is actually there in terms of the bottom line of what's going on in there. That's what I
Mhm,
teach. Because to me, all
mhm.
the other stuff is window dressing from my view. Now it's totally fine. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying like to me, it's just window dressing. Okay, it kind of looks this and looks like okay, now let's look deeper because what does that actually mean? Is how I look
Right,
at
right.
it anyway.
You know, that's interesting that you say that, Daniel, because when I think about the frequency or the spin, what comes up for me from a basic level is the density of the frequencies. And as we go from the lower three chakras, which are most intimately connected to the physical body, and then you transition through the transitional element of the heart, and then up into the upper three chakras, what I will say that there is a palpable density difference as
Right.
we ascend up into the various layers of consciousness.
Mhm, mhm,
So when I read and hold space as a medical intuitive, that's more about what I'm picking up is the congruence of this. Are there any distortions or discordance which no longer serves that person in present
mhm,
time?
mhm. Right, right. Yeah, totally. I'm just there to,
Yeah.
I was one of the things I recently got a reading and then a clearing from a healer that does it's been doing it a very, very long time. I'll just say it that way. A very, very long time. Longer than you, maybe. So this time. So very, very long time. And maybe it was time or whatever, but this person really did not break down like a lot on the chakras. She just was like, yeah, I don't know, I'll get this on it, some general label. I'm like, tell me more about it. Well, I just see it, I'm like, what do you, I didn't want to
Mhm.
press it because I don't care. It's her process. I'll gain whatever I'm supposed to gain. It's fine. But I really find like a lot of times people don't take it farther. They don't go deeper into seeing what's really because you can know whatever needs to be known. You can unpack it. Like you can unpack every life and every chakra. Like you can unpack anything in there, right? It's all could be unveiled. I'm just curious, like how are you more pinpoint to the specific, like as a medical intuitive, for example, you probably would be more pinpoint to what's going on right now, or are you looking a lot at like the past wounds from this life, past lives even, or I'm not saying anything's right or wrong. I'm just saying I'm just curious how you go about it.
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
To summarize, I
Okay.
guess the first thing when I look and hold space as a medical intuitive for somebody, I can't help but to acknowledge the electromagnetic container that they have created for themselves. What does their biofield look like? Meaning that does this individual, does this spirit have they cultivated strong boundaries? Is there a density to their auric body? If not, then I'm looking for holes, tears, perforations,
Mhm.
severances of this density or these layers that surround the physical body. Because my belief system is that over time, the environment, whether it be conditioned responses, whether it be trauma, whether it be repetitive issues, they wear down the bioenergetic field. And then those adverse reactions can then settle within a space of a specific energy center known as the chakra. And so when I use the chakras as a gateway to open up a better understanding, deeper layers of the diagnosis as to what the core root of the problem is. And so from that energy center, I can get a wealth of information, wealth of information as to what's happening with the corresponding endocrine glands, which intimately connects into the hormones. So I can see chemistry. Then I can better understand what's happening within the autonomic nervous system as it relates to those endocrine systems and how we're processing and driving that information up through our central nervous system into our brain, which then creates the limiting belief patterns based upon those themes that might be housed within those energy centers. So much information physically, mentally, emotionally, chemically, energetically, these themes play out and create distortions within the energy centers and also within the biofield. So that's the first place I start.
Mhm. Because metaphysically speaking, yeah, your thoughts are your reality, and they also physicalize in your body, right? So there it is. When you start looking at the chakras, you can see, you could pretty much predict like what different physical ailments they might have had historically or may currently have just by looking at the chakras, right?
Yeah, and then you also take into the consideration the responsibility, the role as to what chakras actually do.
Hmm.
So if they are, number one, primarily designed to assimilate information, remember whatever they're assimilating, the environment had to get through the layers of the biofield to be then captured within a specific energy center. So the electromagnetic portion of the chakra is designed to capture, to spin, to cleanse. And then once they do all of that, then it's their job to express that back out into their environment. So if they're not processing negative input, then they are exuding back out to their environment and perhaps attracting more of that. So you were talking about also the mental component. And yes, goodness gracious, that whole chemical compound, the beautiful the brain and its neuroplasticity that is so influential will respond to the chemistry and the hormonal production that comes from the endocrine system.
Mm-hmm. Now, literally, the thought forms though of you know, be careful, you know, or whatever, like um they're imprinted in the energy and then they become thoughts is how I see it. How do you see it?
I agree with you. They get imprinted within the energy center, which causes a whole cascade of events, a whole cascade of events internally, physiologically, psychologically, and then that's what creates the shift within the chemistry of the brain or the neurology of the brain.
Because there's way more thoughts that are going, you know, thought forms, I guess you put it, right? Within the subconscious, you know, subtle layers or whatever, how you want to put it into words, like it's where that's hidden than what we know. You know,
Hmm.
I know how I think. What are you telling me? I know how I think. Well, again, with the subconscious, there's so many thoughts happening underneath your conscious awareness. You have no clue, right? I mean, there's so many things I've bumped into. I remember I mean, just basic ones I run into, like, okay, I wasn't thriving on my business, and then like, oh, it's because I don't want to pay taxes, but I wasn't aware of it. It was sort of subconscious. Oh, I guess it's connected. Oh my God, I never would have thought that. I make just enough so I don't
Right,
pay taxes, right? So you
right, right.
see these associations of things that you had no idea about. So being able to, when people say, well, I've been working with my thoughts and I've been doing all this stuff, but I'm still ill. I'm still not better, you know, whatever the condition is, whether I got cancer or, you know, heart conditions or diabetes or what, there's so many things. Um, but there's hidden thoughts, you know, that they have that we can pick up on. At least how I see it, you know, we're tuning into people by looking at what's going on with their chakras, for example, right?
Very true. And then once you bump up, I think you used the word, and I love this, that you bump up against these conditioned responses that you didn't even know that you had on a conscious level. And then you're like, wait a minute, where did that come from? Right. So if you just, you bump into it like, oh, wow, I didn't even have that awareness.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's very illuminating. Like, okay, like when I was getting a chakra reading recently, like I said, she did say some things that really hit me hard. I'm like, I know that, but I didn't know that, like things like that, like, or I didn't realize how much that's impacting me. But in this moment, I do, as you say that, right? You become aware of it. That's what's so valuable about having someone tune into you. So, what are some of the because you talk about the chakras is unveiling the chakras towards this body wisdom. So what does that mean exactly? So we're unveiling these chakras. It's a hidden path to body wisdom. What do you mean by that?
Okay. So if it's okay with you, Daniel, what I would like to do is let's just, no pun intended, but let's dissect the first energy center.
Okay.
Okay. Let's dissect chakra number 1, located deep within your pelvis. All right. It's most intimately connected into the overarching theme of the first energy center is all about survival. Okay. Survival at its best. Where do you feel safe? What can you trust? What's going to align your prosperity? Where are you going to thrive? These are all the elements that you support your clients with, correct? Okay.
Mhm.
So the energy center in the first chakra, neurologically, it is connected into the endocrine system, the adrenal system. We're all familiar with the adrenal glands. They are tiny little glands that sit on top of the kidneys. And kidneys, according to traditional Chinese medicine, is where your qi energy comes from, your life force energy. And so when we are maxing out our adrenal system, you'll see a release of chemicals. Okay. Some of these, the listeners will resonate with, but it's like adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, DHEA. These are a few of the hormones that get released when your adrenal system is activated. Okay. If you are fear driven, anxiety driven, untrusting, or you're unable to ground, chances are there will be discordances within the first energy center. We have learned over time, right? We're talking about repetitive conditioned responses or adverse childhood reactions or traumas that we may have sustained that taught us repetitively over time, A, you're not safe, need to watch out in your environment, that you want to hover, you don't necessarily want to ground and to sink in, that you're incredibly distrusting, and oh, by the way, it's hard to materialize your desires, hard to create money and be prosperous and alignment with what it is that you're exchanging your job or your energy for money. Okay. All of this revolves around the themes of the adrenal system in the first energy center, the first chakra. If you look at the neurology of it, the body, the wisdom that gets housed within the body. Now, I believe that adverse childhood reactions or memories that you store are stored within the cerebellum, which is the hindbrain, stored within your physical tissues, and stored within your physical DNA. So when somebody has traumas associated with the first energy center, it's common to see physical ailments, anything that connects the butt, thighs, knees, ankles, and feet. So if somebody comes to me with reoccurring hemorrhoids, I'm thinking, oh, first energy center. if somebody's coming to me with a lack of vitality, if they're coming and they're saying, I'm always depleted, I'm always exhausted, and they run within this high sympathetic lifestyle, I go straight into that first energy center. If somebody comes to me and says, oh wow, I'm really working hard, but I just can't seem to make a buck. And when I do, I can't seem to save it and make it do what I want it to do. I go into the first energy center. So those people that have varicosities, knee issues, hip issues, sciatic type issues, plantar fasciitis, osteoarthritis, those are just a few of the physical ailments that may show up as a secondary response to a discordance within the first energy center.
Mhm. That's good. And then every single chakra, we could break it down like that. Okay, and then this one, and then that one, and how that works. So, so yeah, that's fantastic, and I love that you connected to the physical body. You know, you because you're medical intuitive, so it makes perfect sense that you're focused on that. When I read the chakras, looking at their overall life, maybe medical is a part of it, but I'm looking at their overall life. And then, of course, because I'm in business, I look at how it's affecting their business. Well, it looks like the money comes and goes. It looks like this. It looks like that, right? So it looks like you're scared. It looks like you want to get out of your body. It looks like a lot of things. I always tell people there's so much I could share with you, but we only have a short while today, So, but here's a few things, right? But try to get to the core of it. So, do you find talking about core? Because we could break down the whole chakras, but I'm hoping we'll see later. They either can get a reading from you to learn more about that, or your books, or whatever you have on that. But we'll talk about that, right? So, but I'm wondering, like, when you're looking at these, so you're looking at each chakra based on what they're saying. It sounds like in part two, you'll read it all too, but I get it, you both ways. But also, like, I'm wondering, when people say, like I say core wounds. It's just the term I use, like the core wounds, because usually, like, I'll identify this like core pattern, and then you'll find them almost in every chakra, like many chakras. You pick up on that pattern, that energy again and again. Do you investigate? Is that what do you really focus in on that way? Because some people have the belief, as practitioners out there, that hey, all we have to do is dissolve the core wounds and the rest will follow. Or I was curious what your take is on that and how that correlates with your work.
Yeah, I appreciate this question because when I think about core wounds, okay, very rarely is a core wound just sitting and residing within one energy center. So it
Mhm.
shows up as pairs or three energy centers that are impacted.
Yes.
But what shows up for me, and again, this is via my psychometry, a little bit of clairvoyance, but more clairsentience, is that I feel I'm always asking the physical body, is this core wound or this wound, is it grounded in present time? Is it grounded in present time? So it could be an experience that the individual has had this lifetime.
Mhm.
And I'm open to all where the core wound originated from. Is it something past life related? Is it something that gets inherited via their ancestors? Is it something that culturally gets picked up within a big group that they are affiliated or their family has been affiliated with years? Is
Mhm.
it something karmically related? Is it something universally related? Because when I start to tap into the multi layers, I sense and I feel when I'm scanning on a linear spectrum, I will see peaks. I will
Mhm.
see peaks in which there's common themes, common archetypes, common wounds. And then we're looking to diminish and to level out that linear spectrum. So
Mhm.
my belief system is that the healing that we do today is also, excuse me, also retrocausal, meaning it can, again, if we're living in a multiverse, in a non-linear aspect of time, we are clearing, as we're clearing today, we're also clearing from the past, and we're also clearing from the future. So
Mhm.
the geometry behind this, I believe that we are only an nth degree off of what we want the original expression of our blueprint of that original essence. And so we can, once we ground down some of those discordances, then we can realign to our authentic or our greatest expression of self, if you want to say that, to our nth degree, and to hold that, I'm going to say, alignment or frequency or intention, because energy follows thoughts.
Mhm.
So our brain cannot perceive the difference between something is real versus what has been imagined. So once you can create those versions of self, then it's just aligning the sense of self and energetically. I hope
Mhm.
that answers your question.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm just wondering how core wounds plays in, and um, so yeah. I mean, core wounds are a huge chunk of what's going on in terms of issues they may have in their tissues, is how I see it. So, uh,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
uh,
I see core wounds around survival, connecting with deepest desires, individuality, sovereignty, compassion, empathy, our ability to authentically express self, to see, sense, and feel clarity, and to connect with all that is. Those are some of the core basic themes that our energetic system revolves around.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, this very interesting stuff. So, what is it that somebody like it's just what I'm like looking for we only have you for so long today. I'm like, okay, I want to ask this some other interesting question, because somebody might be dealing with an issue right now. They might be like, I just can't get past this diabetes, or I just can't get past this autoimmune disorder, or I just can't get past whatever, fill in the blank. Um, so I imagine you meet these people pretty regularly through the years, and then you're able to break it down and see what's going on. So how does that work? If someone comes and says, I just haven't been able to get past this, how can you help me? What's your process of helping somebody with something like that?
Yeah, Daniel, it's not unlike okay, I say this, wishing and hoping that all integrative practitioners do a thorough and comprehensive intake and an evaluation for a new patient. And so that's my desire for the new patients that come into my office, is that they will fill out a comprehensive intake form. I want to know everything from, do they have pets? Do they feel safe at home? Who do they go to? Who are their go-to people? What have they tried that has successfully worked, and what has not worked for them? And then once I go through all of that and I scan their physical body, the first thing or the second thing that I will ask people is, what does your intuition tell you about, let's just use your diabetes or your pancreas issues? What do you think is the core issue? And
Mm,
it's pretty amazing, because most people do have an awareness, but they are uncertain as to how to unpack it and to support themselves.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I say too. I mean, a lot of times I'm like, you already know the truth. You just gotta be willing to admit to what's true, because the scrambling mind doubt whether it knows the truth, right? And also, sometimes we're trying to keep the separation is trying to keep the racket alive, and it's like I don't know what's going on, much less how to address it. And somehow you do, but it's on, no one's taught you to, like, well, look at your emotions and feelings and your energy, and let's see what's going on there, and let's address it from there. It's like, it's still, for most people, it's still, even if they're in this whole the deal where they're into this sort of stuff, like it's still foreign idea. It's like the first thing that comes to your mind when you're sick is like, oh, for most people still, is like, oh, maybe I should talk to my doctor, maybe I should go get it assessed. Well, what if the first thought starts becoming, maybe I should go to my integrative, intuitive medicine practitioner, or whatever, whatever they call, you want to call yourself. But uh, that's the first step. Then they might say, you know what, maybe you should go see one of these other type of doctors to help deal with this, that could be helpful. I think maybe that is a good part of the treatment, right? That's how I see it. I think that's sort of uh part of the future. Not maybe the whole picture of the future, but I think it's part of the direction, don't you?
I absolutely do. I believe that the future of medicine is energy medicine. And that's the premise of my podcast, quite honestly, because
Mm,
I've been a practitioner for over 30 years and I have been doing modalities that have yet to be scientifically proven. And let
mm,
me tell you something, if my patients were sitting here on this podcast, they would say, I don't care if it's been proven or not, that stuff works for me. And
right.
so, as a practitioner, it's a big pregnant pause. And so, energy medicine has been around forever, forever. This is not a new technique. It's not new agey. It's not woo woo stuff. It's
Yeah.
stuff that people have generations have always been aligning towards these kinds of modalities. And
Mm,
so, and that's the premise. That's what started my podcast, is because I was like, all right, let's talk about this stuff. Anything that aligns the mind, body, and spirit, there's a hardcore physical science, and yet maybe there may be some sciences that have yet to be proven. I mean, we talk about biofields and people are like, "Ooh, that's new agey." And I'm like, "No, no, it's not." We're talking about people, scientists and researchers looking at biofields since the 1930s. We're
mm,
talking about the NIH, we're talking about ions, we're talking about big research organizations that are saying, oh yes, we have these tools that can measure the energy that runs within us and surrounds us. So that's what I hope to do, is to educate those people that may not have necessarily the resources to be able to say, oh, wow, you mean what she's talking about may sound a little wackadoodle, but that's scientifically proven and on its way to being hardcore science.
yeah. Yeah, we're on our way. They
We are.
heard of many, many years ago, that over in China, probably for a long time, they have those no medicine hospitals and all that, right? They just all get together and do their thing, put their hands up. And we've seen it, a video, right? Three of them, shrinking tumors or making them disappear. It's nothing. Yeah, you're right. It's nothing new, guys. It's just not as profitable. Maybe keep you sick and broke. Like yeah, I swear. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, but like we're waking up. I feel we're waking up. So that's the good news. So yeah, so why don't you tell people more about where they can learn about you, and also I know you have yeah, we're going to put a number of links in the show notes here, and then you also have some I believe some meditations that people can take advantage of too to get support, right?
Yeah, I would like to invite listeners. I am not asking you to drink the Kool-Aid. I expect you to have lots of questions about what it is that I'm suggesting as far as the healing modality. So, for that very reason, I offer a discovery call, which allows you to pick up the phone, schedule an appointment with me, and say, look, I heard you on Daniel's podcast, and I want to say, I think I'm aligning with what you're saying, but I have a few questions about my situation specifically. That's what a discovery call is for. I'm not expecting you to be a firm believer when we get on that discovery call. And as Daniel alluded to, one of my gifts I have found in my years of holding space energetically for other people, that there are three basic things that we do in order at the very beginning, just to get a person kind of open to receiving the energy work. And number one is teaching people how to ground so that they can meet and greet the frequency of Mother Earth and get connected into the most sustainable energy source that we have available to us, and that's Earth energy. So that's one of the three meditations that I offer in the ultimate guide to an ultimate meditation guide to unleashing your authentic self. Grounding is number one. Number two is a detachment exercise. And I know detachment has possibly a negative connotation, but essentially I'm teaching and training people how to neutrally separate from people, places, and things that they may be attached to when they are living with an expectation. They live their lives, thinking that they're going to elicit a certain expectation from another person. So we're teaching people how to neutrally separate from those people, places, and things. So the third meditation is how to work with your timing clock. Like it's a minor energy center, but I think it's a major chakra when it comes to getting us aligned with present time consciousness, so that we're not too far forward and driven into an anxiety, and we're not too far back sinking into depression. So all of these meditations intentionally were designed to be 10 minutes or less, to fit into a busy lifestyle for those people who say, I don't have time to meditate. Well, okay, maybe you do have 10 minutes. Maybe it's when you're whatever, sipping your coffee or drinking your tea or waiting for your clothes to dry. So that's my offer. That's my gift to you, is I invite you to go to the website and to download those the ultimate guide to the meditation guide.
Fantastic. Like I said, we'll put the all the links in the show notes, and if you go to her website, drmarysanders.com, that's where you can, I imagine, find what you're looking for as far as consults.
Yeah.
Totally check out her energy medicine podcast. I'm curious for sure. So definitely we want to be checking that out. And then the meditations, obviously, and you can find her, all over the internet too, on different social media platforms for sure. So, all right. Dr. Mary, we are to the point of the energy scan segment where I do just a couple downloads for my guests or whatever I'm getting coming through, because I'm here to support you spiritual, entrepreneurs, light leaders, healers, and whatnot. And so you never know what might come through. And I've had some people have some, either just like that was cool, or like big revelations sometimes at a show. You never know. It's always fun. So are you ready to receive?
Absolutely.
Oh, awesome. Okay, and for the audience, tune in extra for this, because again, something I say may be like, ping, that's for me too, right? So you never know. Okay, all right, give me a moment. So tune in and see what comes through. I'll just hear the way it's coming through. You're Now you're not doing this in a way it's different, but like what they gave me though is the level, because you come across to me as someone that's like grounded and clear and strong and um naturally to be taken seriously. Uh, what they're showing me on top of that though is something that is very very like I'm getting like a Mother Teresa vibe, like you really want to, you probably connect with her with that smile I see on her face. So, but anyway, I just get this big, like, there's so much compassion that you have. It's like really off the charts. And I don't know if people probably know that, listen to you, but I don't think they know it until they tune in the way I just did. You have enormous compassion for people. And so that's a gift, but and you did mention around the like, I want to take it away from people, kind of thing. And it's sort of, in you still, for sure, but obviously you've gotten much better not taking on energy and all that stuff. But that's the level of compassion. Don't worry, I'll take it away. Like the like, so I just see that in you, and it's just so beautiful. And that, you're, what did they say? They said, like you're you're, it's something about being an angel, you're just, they said little angel. Like, I don't know why I said little, but they said like, so she's just this little angel here to help people, So when those magical little angel people, like, in terms of the power of what you bring forth. Okay, let me tune into one more, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, so I don't, again, I share what comes through. I don't always get the character right, but I'm just kind of getting like, I'll just say family, because to it's seeing it's on a public airways, but there's a family member, so I won't even go there. But I get like people, people wanting to um people may try to take advantage of you, right? So number one, but also I get this like taking from you, something about taking from you. And then that's where your boundaries has had to be really strong. So it could be many levels of people wanting to utilize you as a channel. They might want to abuse you in certain ways or whatever. Like you won't give it, I'm going to take it. That's a vibe I get. So we definitely want any of those patterns that are still present. Okay, dissolve them now, right? Because we don't want to keep those going anymore. So I get something with that. So because they see how compassionate you are, right? So this strength you've developed is really serving you well. And I think it's really helped you a lot, with all that stuff that's there. So for every core wound or, issue we have, it's also a superpower, obviously, as you know, but I just share that too with the audience. Guys, yeah, we have these vulnerabilities, but there are superpowers too. So we learn to kind of work with it all, right? Okay, so I'll just leave it at that, Mary. So any quick reflections or thoughts about what was coming through?
No, I just really enjoy watching and feeling you do your work. So that's a gift to me, to witness and to share that with you. So thank you for your reading and healing.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. All right. So yeah, guys, if you want to check me out, just go to yoursacredpurpose.com. And if you want to get your own reading, because I know what I said, parts of it for sure. Mary was definitely sending me the energy. Yeah. So you go ahead. You can get a Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation from me, where I'll look through your energy, chakras, and whatnot. Again, I'm focused on you rocking your sacred purpose. Get out of there, world, doing your thing. So I look at your energy with that. Of course, I do intuitive business coaching with it as well. So you've got that. You also have free meditation, though. So there's a free meditation, meditate to make money. Everybody just always tells me how valuable it is, and there are definitely people who have told me they're building their business just by listening to that every day. So take advantage of meditate and make money meditation. All right, so I'll leave it that simple for today. Mary, I'm so grateful. I mean, you're part of I know it's been around forever, but you're sort of a pioneer during these times, at the same time within this world, the way the world is today. And I really see you as being a potent, part of this movement and a leader, and you have such passion for it. Obviously, it really showed when we talked there towards the end. The fire got higher. And so I'm really grateful for that and your wisdom and knowledge and dedication to your work in the world. And I'm so grateful you came on the show today.
Thank you. And again, I want to express sincere gratitude back to you for all that you do to hold space for others and their healing and their transformation. It gives me great pleasure to align with other beautiful spirits such as yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. Definitely get after it. Follow up with Dr. Mary if you're guided to and inspired. Go with it with Godspeed. All right. All right. So like I always say, just thank you for listening in and keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spirits for Rockstar Podcast. Till the next time. For listening to Spirits for Rockstar Podcast, stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.